Dad tip number 7 is one of the ones I feel strongest about. A lot of these are suggestions. This one I'm 100% on, and is dude, hire a doula. So if you're like a lot of guys, you're like, David, what's a doula the hula? What am I doing here? So right away, a doula is a educated birth professional who is competent and knowledgeable for all the non-medical components of birth. So they do not give any medical advice, but they're there for moral support, emotional support, physical comfort measures. They're going to be sort of your partner's big sister, wise elder, confidant. They've been through dozens of births, most likely, some even hundreds. They've been there. They've got the t-shirt. They know what's going on. So it's going to be a great asset for you as part of your birth team when you approach childbirth and you get into the actual, hours of delivery. Your doula is going to be right there with you both as an asset to both of you. So one of the things I often hear when it comes to doulas, a lot of guys are like, well, David, is a doula gonna are they gonna replace me? Are they gonna kick me to the curb? What's my role once this doula shows up? And I say, no, dude, that's not the issue. Your doula is what I call your wingman from heaven. A doula is there to make you look good and support your partner and do all kinds of things. Like say you're in the birthing place, you're at a hospital, a birth center, whatever. Your doula is there too. She can give you specific directions to kind of help you show up better for mama during this childbirth. So she can be like, why don't you try massaging her shoulders? Why don't you wipe her brow? David, this is a great time. Just hold her hand. You're doing great. She's going to be able to coach you on specific activities, because a lot of times these guys get into the actual childbirth and now they're like, shit, now what? And they start to kind of panic and they think they're supposed to do a bunch of stuff. And a lot of times it's not doing, which we'll get to later on in the series. It's about being. But your doula is going to be there to guide you with specific tips, tricks, and techniques. They're also there to cover for you. David, why don't you go get some lunch? You've been here for a little while. I know you're getting hungry. Your partner can't really eat right now, having a baby and everything, but go get some lunch. Take an hour. Nothing's going to happen. If something comes up, I'll text you. And you're like, great. I didn't have to say, I'm getting hungry. Are you okay? Can I go get some lunch? So your doula is there to both cover for you and support you. Another thing that they can do is really be that birth expert. So you're sitting there, you're going to see your partner having a lot of physical discomfort. She's going to be straining and pushing and sweating. She may be cursing at you. And a lot of the guys are like, they get kind of panicky, well, I want to help my partner. She's in pain. What can I do to help? And your doula is there to remind you that she's on her journey. I often say it's kind of like when you're watching somebody, run a marathon. They run by you at mile 24. They're struggling. They're crying. They're shitting their pants. They're just like, but you don't need to go out there and save them. You're sitting there clapping yeah, good job. Here's your water. So it's kind of the same thing. You want to show up at this birth as if you're supporting somebody in a marathon, and your doula is going to help you do that better. She's going to be like, David, you don't need to really worry about this. Or David, we may start to, this may be a time we want to readdress our birth plan to see where we have some options here because, X, Y, or Z is happening. Again, they're not going to give you that medical advice, but they can kind of cue you in to when maybe you want to pay more attention or maybe when you want to ask your medical provider some questions. So they're going to be a great resource for you there. So, dude, hire that doula. Real quick though, when you interview these doulas, number one, you're going to want to go with who your partner likes best, because really it comes down to who she feels safest with, who she feels seen by, helped and supported by, who she feels she can really trust and lean into, because the trust of that relationship is literally the most important thing. So defer to your partner on who she likes. You want to interview these doulas, interview at least 3 or 4, ask them the same questions in the same order so you can make an apples to apples comparison. You're going to also ask them some of the tougher questions. How many births have you attended? How do you normally, support your clients? What are the things that you suggest for comfort measures? Can you tell us about a time where a birth process kind of went a little bit sideways and how you showed up and supported those clients? You want to take this interview somewhat seriously. You don't want to grill them, but you want to get a sense of who this person is, how competent they are, how comfortable they are, how experienced they are. And as a guy, you want to say, how are you going to support me and my challenges here? You want to get them to speak to you because you're going to have some meetings with them as the pregnancy progresses. As you get closer to childbirth, they can be a great asset. You can reach out to them and say, hey, I have a little uncertainty here. For example, my wife, who is an amazing, powerful, strong woman, in her normal waking life, she's very sensitive to pain. She stubs a toe and boom, she's down like a sack of potatoes. She's screaming, she's crying. I come running in from the other room and she's laying on the ground in agony. And I'm like, what happened? What happened? What's going on? She's like, oh, I stubbed my toe. And I'm like, okay, but how does that translate to this? So I bring that up because during our pregnancy process, we were planning on going 100% natural childbirth. No meds, no epidural, no pain relief. We're just going to, try to go with this natural childbirth. And I wanted to show up as a strong, supportive, helpful partner and like believe in her and you can do it, you can do it. But part of me is like, you're not going to do that. Like you can't even stub your toe and not go down. Now you're going to push something the size of a watermelon out of a hole the size of a lemon with no meds. Like what's going on here? So I was really conflicted. I didn't want to suggest the doubt to my partner. She doesn't need that. She needs me to really believe in her. But my brain's like, yeah, you can't just pretend this isn't real, dude. Like what's going on? So I was able to reach out to our doula and have a separate conversation and be like, Barb, like this is a thing for me. Like I really want to be helpful and supportive. I want to show up for Jen 100%, but like this is a straight up reality. Like she can't handle pain as I've seen. And I don't know what's good. Well, how am I supposed to handle this here? And Barb was great. She was like, well, David, number one, a birthing mom is very different than a mom walking down the street. And the birthing process has all these hormones and chemicals. And you're right. Your emotional support is much more important than this, the cognitive doubt you have. So I want to assure you, I've interviewed you guys. I've talked to you. I've seen you and Jen. Jen's a strong person. I think she can do this. So I just want to assure you that I'm on Team Jen 100%. And not just because I'm supposed to be, but I really believe in her. And I was like, okay, good. That allowed me to get to a point in my sort of support and helpfulness where that little doubt was alleviated. And I wasn't still showing up like, you can do it, maybe. I was like, yeah, you can do it. I'm with you. And I now knew that Barb had my back as the partner and the dad. She was going to speak truthfully to me. She was going to be a great support for me through this birth journey. So again, dad tip number 7, 100%, dude, hire that doula.